The world is changing quickly. Only years ago, investors' eyes were set on emerging markets such as Brazil or India, while on the other hand, the Eurozone seemed on the verge of implosion. But since 2014, things have shifted. Within months, European infrastructure funds have raised billions from LPs located all around the world. So what's the draw? With $7 billion under management, Ardian Infrastructure is doubtless one of the biggest and most experienced infrastructure investors in Europe. This is why we've decided to interview its team's head, Matthias Burgard, who's just celebrating the 10th year anniversary of its fund's creation. He's going to tell us why Europe remains at the forefront of infrastructure and what strategies can make the difference when the time comes to raise equity. Good morning, Matthias Burgard.
Good morning, Xavier.
So can you tell us why, in your view, Europe remains the most interesting place to invest in infrastructure?
That's a good question, because you remember, not so long ago, emerging countries such as Brazil, Turkey, Russia were very much the place to be to invest in infrastructure. Today, the market recognized that the most attractive place to invest in is Europe in infrastructure. When we started 10 years ago, we had mainly European and Canadian investors, some Australian as well, invest in infrastructure. And now infrastructure has become a global play. We have obviously always the European and the Canadian investor, the Australian investors, but also Asian investor, a lot of Korean, Japanese, Chinese investors, but also Middle East investors, and more lately, we have US investor. And US is very much the last kid in the block. That's quite interesting because, as you know, US investors were quite reluctant to invest in Europe not so long ago. They were also quite reluctant to invest in infrastructure. So this is new. And back to your question, why Europe? I think Europe, first of all, is 50% of the world transactions. So
one out really big,
yeah,
huge.
It's huge. I mean, one out of two transactions is happening in Europe. So it's an unavoidable market, a market where you also find a vast diversity of transactions, not only energy transaction like in the US, but also transport transactions, social infrastructure. So you find a full spectrum of assets to invest in. The second element, which is crucial for infrastructure, is stability and predictability of the legal framework. Europe has built over decades a very stable and friendly and investor-friendly legal framework, and that's been very appealing to investors.
This being said, some unexpected decisions have been taken throughout Europe in recent years. So what about regulatory risks?
Absolutely. The regulatory risk is the main risk we need to manage and to anticipate. So it's not only a matter of analyzing what is today the best legal framework, but to predict or to anticipate what would be the evolution of those legal framework. For that, we have decided to be very focused in terms of number of countries where we invest, and also to invest in countries where we have local presence, local industrial partners, and where we have a permanent dialogue with the local authorities. So, this being said, how we anticipate the evolution of the regulatory framework, I think, above all, it's a matter of creating value. There is the perception sometimes in some countries that basically infrastructure investors are getting a return, basically not adding much value to the service provided to community. I think that's very dangerous, and that's why, as Ardian, we take a very proactive role in our asset management to create value obviously for our shareholders, but also to create value for the people which use this infrastructure. So value creation and value sharing on a win-win deal is extremely important on infrastructures.
So you've been raising billions for years now. What does make the difference? How do you approach investors?
Basically, I think the first thing is track record. As I was mentioning, this asset class has now a decade of history in Europe, and track record is very important. The investors have seen or have experienced some or the largest manager of infrastructure fund managers to disappear sometimes. So there's been a lot of changes. So now they can choose between different track records, and that's very important to them. Another factor I was mentioning is ability to have access to the deal flow. One of the peculiarities of the infrastructure is that the assets and the investments are quite scarce. So ability to deploy money, to buy in good condition those assets are very important. And you know that Ardian has been particularly successful to buy transaction under proprietary or limited competition situation. You've seen that we have recently acquired Geocell, probably the largest storage, underground storage for oil products in Europe, which we buy alongside EDF the 50% stake from Total. We recently also buy from another oil company, Repsol, their 10% stake in Compañía Logística de Hidrocarburos. This is the largest European infrastructure for refined products. We bought not so long ago alongside Crédit Agricole a controlling stake in Vinci Park. So ability to invest year after year and to source assets at reasonable conditions is very critical to investors.
So to be active on the market.
To be active on the market, active on investment, but also very active on the asset management. Again, value creation is extremely important, not only for the return, but also to anticipate and to mitigate risk.
Thank you very much, Mathias Burgard.
Thank you, Xavier.